Welcome everybody to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, Attention and ADHD coach Jeff Copper. And today I'm here to talk about the anatomy of attention, or what I call the anatomy of attention. Now, on the 200 and maybe 50 episodes that preceded this, I was always talking about some insight and a tip. And if you'll notice, I spent a lot of time paying attention to attention. And attention is one of those things that's very, very misunderstood. And I actually have a video on my website called If Only You Understood Attention, which is about 30 minutes, and it puts you some experiences for you to witness attention, to help you understand what attention really is, and then kind of help you begin to understand attention. And today, I'm going to use one of the excerpts of that video to kind of talk about attention, to kind of enlighten you a little bit about it, maybe to help you begin to understand what the coaching paradigm is kind of all about on the backside. Not the mechanical, methodical process, but kind of what we're actually doing and the tools that we have and what we're doing. So let's get into it. So the key to managing your attention is to witness your attention and paying attention to what you're paying attention to. And that sounds really pretty easy, but what you're paying attention to often is kind of this invisible thing that really drives a lot of your outcomes and the way you see the world. And to understand it, I got an attention exercise for you. And this is interesting because I learned a long time ago that music is a universal language, because if you hear a C note, you have an experience. Nobody described it to you, but we all have an experience. And if you hear a D note, there's a relationship between those two, and it's common among everybody. So if we can put you in an experience and you can hear the experience or witness to the process, you can begin to understand it. All too often in attention, we talk about attention, and people's idea of attention is off, and so we're not communicating on the same page for the get-go. So today I want to put you in an experience, and by the way, these are very hard to come up with because the brain and perceptions are so different. So if you don't quite connect with this, and a few of you might not, then just imagine what I'm trying to get across. So our exercise for you today is, I want you to think, what 2 days start with the letter T? What 2 days start with the letter T? And I'm going to ask you, what are you paying attention to? Well, in my anatomy of attention, I break it down into what I call the object of attention and what you're actually paying attention to. And imagine this is kind of your face, if you will. And often, when I say what days start with the letter T, a person will say Tuesday and Thursday. To me, that's the object of your attention. In order to get that answer, you'd have to be paying attention to the days of the week. If you pay attention to the days of the week, the answer would be obvious, Tuesday, Thursday, because they're the only 2 days of the 7 that start with Tuesday, Thursday. Now notice, for some of you, I didn't say what days of the week started with Tuesday. I said what days start with Tuesday. If you filled in the blank, then your brain took a shortcut, and it wasn't really paying attention to what I said. Which is one thing. So what I want to illustrate here is what you're really paying attention to is the days of the week. It's this invisible thing that your attention flows through, and it pays attention to that. It's obvious the answer is Tuesday and Thursday. So then I'll ask people, is there another answer? Now, with this being stated, often they have attention blinders. They're paralyzed. They can't think of another answer. But for those that do, or who came up with a different answer, oh, today and tomorrow. Those are 2 days that start with the letter T. And so I'll ask, what are you paying attention to in order to pay attention to that? And to do that, the past, the present, and the future, which is yesterday, today, and tomorrow. If you paid attention to that, you'd get the answer of today and tomorrow. Then this is really fun, because I'd say to the person, is there another answer? And to date, I think I've had 1 or 2 people that actually kind of figure this out. And everybody goes, oh, well, I guess there is, because you wouldn't be asking me that question. But to illustrate, how about the 3rd or the 10th, the 20th, the 13th, the 31st, or the 27th? In this situation, if you paid attention to a calendar, then you would be able to get those answers. Again, the 3rd, the 10th, the 13th, and the 31st. A little story if I can remember it afterwards, because the first 2, Tuesday and Thursday, today and tomorrow, can be found on the internet. This one actually I came up with driving from Sarasota to Tampa after something, just kind of daydreaming, which is a whole nother conversation. But what I'm trying to illustrate as a real quick recap is when we take a look at attention, okay, the object of attention is kind of like the outcome or the answer. It's what's illuminated by your attention. But what you're really paying attention to crosses through this thing. I call it paying attention to what you're paying attention to. Some people might call it perspective. Some people might call it context. I mean, there's a gazillion words for it to mean the same thing, which gets into why I put you into this experience and try to diagram it so we're looking at the same thing. Another answer would be today and tomorrow, or the 3rd, the 10th, and 13th. So in my little diagram of attention, what I'm trying to illustrate here is that what is obvious to you, it depends on what you're paying attention to. So if you're paying attention to the days of the week, the answer is obvious. It's Tuesday, Thursday, etc., all the way through this diagram. As a coach, my job, or what I typically try to do, is to help you shift your attention at the level of attention, up here. Often, when you're looking at this answer, you can't think of anything else. Now, as a coach, I don't need to know what you should be paying attention to. That's not the hard part. The hard part is getting you to let go of what you're focused on. And so, this might sound kind of crazy, but science and stuff spends a lot of attention on the object of attention because that's what they can see and that's what they can measure. But me, if you'll notice, I'm all about paying attention to attention and the aha. The aha, by the way, is the shift, the sudden and comprehensive, the sudden and immediate understanding of something when you change how you pay attention to it. It's the shift at these particular levels. It's the insight, it's the ha-ha, it's the eureka, it's the holy grail to problem solving. This is also a big part of the creative process. So the reason I did this is because when it comes to ADD, and you can tactically measure it and by go out and just try alphabet soup of different strategies and different stuff and randomly stumble into maybe what works, I take a different approach. I'm trying to pay attention to what your brain's paying attention to and let it tell me what the answer is metaphorically. That probably went a little bit over your head a little bit, but if you'd like to learn more about this concept, because it's really, really kind of fascinating, and if you like my stuff, you'll probably get a charge out of it. If you go to my website, digcoaching.com/workshop, you can download If You Only Understood Attention, and it's actually it's about 30 minutes. It's about 5 videos that are put together that walk you through experiences all the way from a basic exercise of looking at an object to the anatomy of insightful thinking, which takes the anatomy of attention one step further and defines to put you in experience and map out the fundamental difference between methodical thinking and insightful thinking. Which, by the way, if you go do that and you have ADHD, I think a lot of those with ADHD get stuck in the insightful thinking process. And there's a lot of great understanding that can understand it as a process because it's a trial and error thing, and it can explain a lot of why things take a little longer, etc. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found that experience that I put you in informative, thoughtful, thought-provoking, and really can help. But at the end of the day, it's what I described to you and which I put you through looks relatively simple, but it's really, really pretty complex. But once you understand it, there's a lot of things that click. And if you're really trying to understand that coaching paradigm, I'm not walking in to give you the answer. I'm willing to trying to help you shift at the level of attention. Hence, Aha Bob is my logo for my company, which is really funny. If you really look really close in his brain, there's actually a little aha that most people don't necessarily get. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. For more tips, subscribe to Attention Talk Video or go check out my website at digcoaching.com. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Take care.